Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, almost good evening. My name's Doug Mather. I just want to make sure that I really am in the right place here. So who is actually interested in understanding more about how you're motivated? Okay, those of you that I assume that kept your hands down, just want to go to sleep, you're not really interested in it. Can I just check that again? Who's actually interested in understanding more about how you're motivated? Okay, good. Because that's what we're going to do for about the next half an hour. And we haven't got a lot of time. I'm not going to be able to go into huge amounts of detail with it, but the idea is really that you get some insight into what it is that motivates you and how you're motivated, so that at those times, as Alex said, at those times when you're really, it's the morning, you've had a heavy night the night before, you kind of went to bed thinking, oh, I've got that thing I've got to get finished off because it's got to be in by 11 o'clock. Actually, being students, you've probably had some experience of that over the last few years with essays and lectures, things you had to do, right? But when it becomes your business, it's a bit more important that you actually get that stuff done. Because if you don't get it done by 11 o'clock, then maybe there's 10 grand's worth of work that's just gone out the window because you didn't deliver when you said you would. So even at those times when you don't really feel much like doing it, or when you do feel like doing it, but there's other more interesting things going on, it's about sort of staying in touch with how you're actually motivated and how you switch that on, even at those kind of times. As I say, we're really only going to scratch the surface of it. And the aim is to get you to a point where you've got some insight that will help you at those times. Now, this thing's called It's Not About the Money. Now, everybody else this afternoon has been telling you how important the money is, right? They've all, Colin was saying, you've got to make sure you get paid. Albert was saying, you've got to make sure you get paid. I'm saying, you've got to make sure you get paid. Because when I say it's not about the money, I'm not saying that your business isn't about the money. What I'm saying is that for most people, in fact, I would say pretty much everybody, even though you think it may be, the thing that motivates you is not the money. All right? Pretty much when surveys are done about, what motivates people, the top thing that comes out is people say, oh, people are motivated by money. Because, when you a lot of the time when people look at jobs, one of the first questions is, how much does it pay? However, when you ask somebody about how they are motivated, if I spoke to one of you as an individual, you would probably tell me you weren't really motivated by money. Now, this is one of the interesting things, that we all think everybody else is motivated by money, but we're not. Now, there's something not quite hanging together there if we all think everyone else is motivated by money, but I'm not. Because if I'm not, and you think you're not, and you think you're not, but they all are, but they all think that we are, but we know we're not, then there's something kind of not quite hanging together in terms of what you're actually motivated by. And what I'd suggest is that when people think they're motivated by money, it's actually other stuff they're motivated by, but money is the kind of representation of it. So that's kind of the thinking behind that title. And money is really, really important in your life, and it's really, really important if you're going to have a successful business. But it's not a good idea to be the thing you focus on, particularly, actually, if you're running a creative business. There's been some research done at Harvard into creativity and extrinsic motivation, people being paid for what they're doing. And what they found is, and I'm not going to go into detail now because it will take a few minutes, but if you're interested in this, I can tell you some more about it afterwards. Basically, they worked with a bunch of artists, and what they found was that where they were commissioned works, their commissioned works were less creative than their non-commissioned works. And there's a whole bunch of psychology behind that, why that is, but essentially, a lot of the time, people become less creative when they are being paid for what they're doing than when they're not. And so that's one of the reasons I want to don't need that one. Good. Next one, thank you. So if it's not about the money, what is it about? Oh, this is the interactive part, by the way. This is where you're supposed to say something back to me. Happiness, okay. Passion. Freedom. Inspire. Sorry, got recognition. Yeah. Self-direction. Right. Direction. Anything else? Doing what you love. Learning. Anybody else? Achieving goals. It is all of those things. Right? And those are all versions of, if we can have the next one, the why. You know, basically, all of those things you described are why you do the thing you do. But what you gave me there was a bunch of concepts, right? There's nothing wrong with what you said, but it was a bunch of concepts. And if I sort of just asked you to say, well, okay, tell me more about passion, how come that's the thing that motivates you? Probably fairly quickly you'd get a bit lost by being able to describe that and really use it as something, you know, does the concept of passion get you out of bed in the morning when you've got a job you've got to finish by 11 o'clock? And probably not. Okay, so what we really want to do is dig further into that. And the reason it's about the why is this thing about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So extrinsic motivation is when somebody gives you money to do something, or they give you some other kind of, some kind of incentive that somebody gives you to do something, whatever it is. Like, do you remember when probably when you were small, your parents said, oh, if you work really hard at school, then you'll get, this car or this doll or whatever it happened to be. Sorry about the sexual stereotypes in the rewards, but that tends to be what parents give their kids. But the intrinsic motivation is the thing that when you were 4 or 5 or 6 years old, had you sat playing with Lego or whatever the thing was for hours on end without anybody else kind of interrupting and doing anything with you. That's the stuff that's really inside that. That's the passion, that's the inspiration, that's all of those things. And that's what we're going to be trying to get our hands on this afternoon. And that's what will motivate you those times when you're really, at the times when you're very enthusiastic, but also at the times when you're not. And the other thing with intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is basically about other people trying to control you. So when somebody's going to pay you lots of money for your design or your whatever it is that you're producing for them, they are going to expect some control. And the more they pay you, probably the more control they're going to expect. And that's one of the reasons that we're ultimately not that motivated by that kind of thing, because we don't like to be controlled. Particularly creative people like to be autonomous, have your own, be going in your own direction, things like that. So the thing with intrinsic motivation is much more about your choice and the way that works. But how do you discover it? How do you discover what your why is? You could ask yourself, well, we just started to do that. Is it this, or is it that, or is it this other? Or is it passion? Am I motivated by passion? What does passion mean anyway? But then what you end up with is just the next slide, just a bunch of pieces of jigsaw. Those kind of bits of things that you kind of, by asking yourself, that you end up with as being the things you're motivated by. And it's still a bit unclear and not terribly useful. It's not like an objectively distinguished thing that motivates you. And it doesn't really give you a useful tool to get yourself and keep yourself motivated. But in fact, discovering your why is actually very, very straightforward. Right, so, what's your name?
Eric.
Eric, okay. And Do you have a business, or are you about to start a business?
About to start.
About to start, okay. What does it do?
Network marketing.
Sorry, say again?
Network marketing.
Network marketing, okay. So I'm going to ask you a question in a moment.
Yeah.
And we're going to actually find out what it is that motivates you. Okay? So if I can have the So the question is this. It's a really simple question. What's really important to you about your work?
Probably having my own freedom to choose what and when I want to do.
Okay. What else?
Having a goal at the end, seeing that the project, whatever I do, being grown brick by brick. It's not something that I would like to do like every single day the same thing, and having no goal actually at the end.
Okay, so part of what's important to you is to have a goal?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. And I think I got in there to actually achieve that goal. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, what else?
Seeing the progress itself.
Seeing the progress. Okay. Okay. What else? What else is really important to you about your work?
Cooperation with other people, like helping them out, and
Okay.
getting help from them. So basically improving yourself,
Right.
and via cooperation.
Yeah. What else?
And probably at the end comes with some sort of rewards.
Okay. Any idea what kind of rewards?
I like traveling.
Okay.
Travel.
Anything else?
Pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Okay. So the first thing is, I don't know whether you did this deliberately, I suspect not, he didn't mention money. All right, it's the first thing. That's just the first thing to notice about it. But if I just want you to imagine for a minute that I'm somebody that's got a piece of work for you to do, okay? And so I've got this little bit of work I need you to do, Eric. It's not a huge piece of work, but I think you'll find it interesting because you'll really have your own freedom while you're doing it. You'll get to do what you want to do when you want to do it. You'll be able to see a clear goal and work towards achieving it, and see the progress as you do that.
Yeah.
There'll be some other people you get to cooperate with, me, my team, and you'll get to help them. They'll help you, and you'll get to improve yourself through that cooperation. And then, of course, at the end of it, there'll be a reward, which you could go off and do some travelling if you wanted to. We're quite happy to help you do that. So, are you interested in that piece of work?
Yeah, obviously, would like to interest more about
Yeah.
it. What is it?
Yeah.
Now? So get it on a scale. What kind of if that reward is decent for the thing.
Oh, of
you
course.
want to do.
Absolutely. Now, the thing is this, that all I've done there is asked him what's really important to him, and then spoken it back to him, and it's just exactly his own words, all right? Because that's really important as well. This is, by the way, this is something you can also use when you're sitting down with a potential client. You can find out what's really important to them about the piece of work that you're discussing with them. If you use that question with them, so what's really important about this piece of work? They will give you a list of criteria just like that, which means it kind of feeds into what Colin was saying, what Albert was saying. The whole lot kind of feeds together because you can then discover how you tap into them as well. Now, there's a bit more we can do with this, but I'm not sure how the time's going to go, so we may not actually get to this bit, but where you can actually start to rank these things. I'll probably tell you very quickly how to do that later on. But what I want you to do now is in pairs, is just to try this out for a minute. Just asking each other that question for a few minutes to find out what it is, what's really important to each of you in the context of your work. Because you will discover some things. There's probably some things you said to me when I asked you that kind of now you go, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought of that being something that motivated me. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get asked that question, it is different than thinking about it yourself. Okay, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, give him a quick round of applause for his help. Now, in pairs, if you've got somebody next to you, that's great. If you haven't, then find somebody. And we'll give you about, 2-3 minutes each to just ask the person next to you what's really important to you about your work. Okay? Okay. So, what did you notice there? What did you find out? Did any of you find, who found out something kind of about yourself and the way you're motivated that you weren't really aware of beforehand? So I can see, okay. So, I don't know, who'd like to say, what was it?
It was like influencing people through my work and showing them like a different view
Right.
through my eyes. Yeah, and for my work to be aesthetically pleasing as well.
Sorry, can you?
And my work to be aesthetically pleasing.
Right. Okay. What else? Who else? Yeah.
Ironically, I did find that money probably is a motivator because I grew up in a really, not a very nice place, and I would like to keep the lifestyle I have now, or if not, get better.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's more keeping in, being able to travel, being able to buy clothes, just being able to have nice things.
Right. Okay. And what I'd say is that, just about that and the sort of money thing, I mean, we can have a conversation offline afterwards if you like, sort of go into a bit more depth about it. But it's like, that's about kind of moving away from what you've known before and creating something, but it's probably, if you focus more on the lifestyle that you want, rather than purely about the kind of money. The money will get you there. That's the thing. It's like money is important, but it's ultimately, if you could do that without money, you'd do it without money. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make. It's about the lifestyle thing that you want to create. But the other thing is that it's also about not being desperate about it. That's what's really important, because it's like when you start getting desperate about it, and money is the one that tends to kick off that desperation thing. When you haven't got money to pay the rent next week, people start to get desperate about it. And actually, focusing on what's really important is more likely to produce the money than worrying about the money. So, but that's that. Okay, so who else? What else did you notice as you were having that conversation?
I was thinking about my focus, and the thing that's important to me is about keeping it on track, which will affect my style and the area I'm aiming for in my career. I do illustration, so it's important for me to stay very focused on what I'm aiming for as my end goal, really.
Yeah.
And staying on track rather than, the saying jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
It's quite easy to go on a tangent when
Yeah.
you're trying to pursue money and jobs, and am I going to do editorial, am I going to do children's books, am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And I think it's important for me to keep very focused until I've achieved one thing, do it very well, and then think about other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, just saying that, I mean, one of the other things that some of this research has found is that the people who tend to be most successful with creative endeavours are, again, the ones that aren't motivated by money or don't think that, feel that they're motivated by other things. The ones who actually end up making the most money are the ones that are not going after the money. Because they stick to what they're committed to in terms of the quality of their work and things like that, and therefore they become, their work quality is higher, and they actually end up being more in demand and able to charge more for what they do as a result of that. So it's kind of like this two-headed thing. It's on the one hand, recognizing that if you're going to run a business, you need it to generate income and make money. But at the same time, actually having what you're pursuing be the thing which is the thing that you're passionate about, the thing that really switches you on, and the stuff that's really, really important to you. And as a result, the money will come in. And it's a difficult one to get your head around and say, especially when you haven't got the money for next week's rent, or the paint that you need, or whatever it happens to be. Okay, one or two others? Yeah.
The importance of learning and knowledge gathering.
Right.
Gathering your own knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the thing is, we could, given more time, we could do this thing in a lot more depth, and this is one part of a whole series of kind of questions which dig right down into that. If you want to talk to me afterwards about some more aspects of that, I'm very happy to answer questions on that. What I want to do very quickly now is just actually ask Eric to come back out here again, because I'm going to do that other thing that I mentioned that we could do, which is about kind of actually, because you've now got a list, presumably most of you, of the things that are important to you. But what you don't know yet is what's most important to you. And this is how you do it. It's actually just as simple as finding out what's important to you. When I said, when you asked each other what's really important to you about X, Y, Z. And by the way, it is important that you phrase that question that way. Because if you start asking your own version of it, you get different answers back. So, this is how you get a hierarchy. And again, remember this in terms of working with clients. So when you have your meeting with a client, they're going to commission a piece of work from you, or you're talking to them about having a piece of work commissioned, and you say to them, so what's really important to you about this project, or about the work that I'm going to be doing for you, or whatever, and you've got that list of criteria back from them. And with some of them, you will get 10, 20, maybe even more things that they say are really important, and that can be a bit of a problem. Right? Because I warn you at this stage, those people will be very difficult to satisfy. However, there is a way you can kind of get them, you can shorten that list, and this is part of it. So what I actually want to do is now I'm just going to ask you a question, or a series of questions, to see if we can get these into some kind of order of importance. Okay? So, in an ideal world, you would have all of these things involved in your business, but I want you just to imagine for a moment that you can only have one, right? And you've got to make choices about that. So, okay, so if I was going to give you the choice, can we just come over here slightly so I can have that there and I can see it, but I also need my hands free. Okay. So if you've got the choice between having your own freedom and seeing the progress you're making, which would it be?
Having my own freedom.
Okay. Having your own freedom and achieving goals.
My freedom.
Right. Having freedom and cooperating with other people.
Still freedom.
Having freedom and improving yourself.
Still freedom.
Good. And having freedom and getting the rewards.
Still freedom.
Okay, so that's the first one. Achieving your goals or seeing the progress?
Achieving goals.
Okay. Achieving goals or cooperating with other people?
Achieving goals.
Achieving goals or improving yourself?
You asked that already.
Hmm?
I think you asked that already.
No, I haven't asked you in
Oh.
this time.
Achieving goals.
Okay. And achieving goals or the rewards?
Yeah, achieving goals.
Okay. Seeing the progress, cooperating with other people.
Seeing progress.
Seeing progress or improving yourself?
Improving myself.
Improving yourself or the rewards?
Improving myself.
Good. Seeing the progress, cooperating with other people?
Cooperating with other people.
Cooperating with other people or the rewards?
Cooperating with other people.
Seeing the progress or rewards?
Seeing a progress.
Good.
Yeah.
So, what we got out of that is, like I kind of said right at the beginning, the rewards came bottom of the list, whether that's money or traveling or whatever it is. So it really is not about the money. But your top one is about freedom. It's having your own freedom. And that's the most important thing as far as you and your business is concerned. You know, that is going to be the thing that really can inspire you and motivate you, and will give you can use to give you direction. Achieving the goals is next. Improving yourself, cooperating with other people, seeing the progress, and finally the rewards at the end of it. You know, but having got that into an order like that, it's like now it's a much more objective tool that you can use, and you can sort of hang on to that bit about the freedom, because that's probably, you know, the thing that will really motivate you at those times. And it will also give you some direction with what you do with your business, if you kind of have that in the background. Now, before we had this conversation, had you really got that distinguished as being the most important thing to you about your business?
Not really.
No. Now, you know, that's all I did was ask you a few questions. Everything came out of you here. So it was in there, but it hadn't come out before.
Yeah.
So that's what we've managed to do this afternoon. And as I say, if you do that same process with people you're going to work with, as well as, you know, what I'd suggest you do is do this some more yourselves. You know, it's not difficult. What's really important about, and then the hierarchy thing. By the way, the bit with the hands is really quite useful, because it does tend to make people think. They think about it differently. You know, so you didn't particularly do this, but sometimes if you do that, people will literally look at your hands and go, and they kind of see the thing that you're talking about sitting in the hands, and they really do sort of weigh it up in their minds. So it's a useful device to get people to actually think about it. And you notice there was one point where he did, I can't remember, there was one pair of choices where you really did kind of go, ooh, which one is it, you know? So, as I say, whether it's about you developing your own motivation or whether it's about finding out more about your clients and understanding more about your clients, it's a really very straightforward but really useful technique. One of the key things when you're doing it with the clients is remember to make sure, well, and with yourselves really, remember you make sure to use their words. Because I have no idea what he means by having my own freedom. But he does. And because I said that, because I used his own words back to him, he knows exactly what I'm talking about, even though I don't know what he actually means by it. Now, at some point, if we were going to do some more work together, it might be useful to find out. But right now, it's still a powerful way of having that conversation. So I hope that's useful to you. And finally, the last one is, I can't remember what the last slide was now. Oh yeah, that's what it's really about. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks.